So Robert Eggers has released his fourth film, Nosferatu. Now, this is a film that was announced quite a while ago. I know there was rumblings of it years and years ago, and he seemed like the perfect fit with his gothic horror style, his obsession with period piece horror, the mood lighting that he has with the candle lights, and it was just like he's the perfect. If anybody's gonna do it, it's gonna be him. So it made perfect sense, and original casting was Anya Taylor-Joy, and it all just made perfect sense. And here we are in 2024. We're finally getting it, and Anya did not end up in this film.
No, she did
Instead,
not.
we got Lily Rose Depp, Johnny Depp's daughter, as well as Willem Dafoe, who plays our Van Helsing character. Don't tell the copyright people. We've got Nicholas Hoult in here playing the Jonathan Harker character. In case for some reason you don't know, Nosferatu was a 1922 German film that wanted to make Dracula. Didn't have the rights to do so made the film anyway, changed some names, thought we'll get away with it, right? We're just gonna skate right on by, and get away with doing this, because back then film was pretty new, and I don't know if people weren't as savvy on these copyright laws. They probably thought this is gonna be a big deal, but it was. And Bram Stoker and company, they sued, they won, and every copy of the film was to be destroyed, and was
so crazy.
And somehow, I'm sure someone stored one away, but there was one found later on.
Like, oh wait, I still have this
one. And now we do have that 1922 version. Famously, there was another version remade in 1979 by Werner Herzog. That one is very beloved as well. And there's been a couple other remakes of this, but nothing of note. And now we have Eggers' version. So essentially, this is just, once again, Bram Stoker's Dracula with some name changes, but pretty much the story is identical. So if you are a huge fan of Dracula, if you are a huge fan of Robert Eggers, then there you go. You got the perfect marriage here.
Of course. Yeah, there's no question whether you should see it.
So because it's Dracula, do I really need to do a plot synopsis? I mean, if you don't know what Dracula is by now and what the story is of the original Bram Stoker's Dracula, I don't know what to tell you. It's literally the most classic tale of classic tales.
Yes,
so plot synopsis,
classic vampire tale,
not necessary.
Yeah.
What is necessary is whether or not it is worth your time. This Christmas season, we got to see this tonight on Christmas. Yay, so Merry Christmas to everybody. So Kaylee, did this live up to the hype surrounding it?
Yes, I think it definitely did. One of the things that I said after we had seen this movie and we're talking about it was that I think that this has a timeless feel. It really is like the perfect gothic horror movie in so many different ways. I think that as far as like a Dracula retelling goes, this might be the best one out there as well. For anybody that is, maybe doesn't like how modern day vampires are treated, like with the Twilights and even the Interview with the Vampires, where they're like very romanticized, this is like the perfect monstrous vampire film. And so I really appreciated that, because I think that that's one of the things that I love about vampires is that they are supposed to be these monsters. They're not just supposed to be like sexy, attractive
creatures,
immortals or something. And
Yeah.
And that is totally accomplished in this. I think that there's we could easily spend, over an hour talking about so many different aspects of the film. But I loved it. I thought that it was beautifully shot. I love the atmosphere. I loved the performances from everybody. I think that there's some really striking shots that are just gorgeous to look at. I love Nosferatu and like the voice and the look and everything there. It also has a really fantastic like marriage of horror and eroticism, which can be like kind of lopsided in vampire stories as well. Like it leans maybe too much into the eroticism without any of the horror, and that's like a perfect combination in this. So
Balance.
yes, it's very balanced. What
Yeah,
did you think?
I think what I was most impressed with in this is when it was originally announced that Anya Taylor-Joy was taking the lead role here. I, of course, was very excited as a big fan of hers. Um, and not really knowing Lily Rose Depp's work, I think really honestly the only thing I'd ever seen her in to my memory is like the Yoga Hoser movies like Kevin
Oh.
Smith did, where she does the Clerks kind of Kevin Smith movies. If you guys haven't seen them, Tusk and Yoga Hosers, she's in
Mm.
those. I never did watch that TV show, the Idol, I think is what it's called, with her and like the Weekend. I think that's who it is. So I didn't really know what her range was, and so, but I figured with him casting her, we were probably good, but
Yes.
you never know, right? But not only is her performance fantastic,
Oh, it's incredible.
just in the acting department, but I feel like it's her physical
Mm.
performance that
Mm.
is the most impressive.
Mm-hmm.
So, because I know that Eggers is a very classic filmmaker, and after making The Northman, he was regretful that he used so much CGI in certain sequences, like when
Mm.
they're fighting in the volcano and whatever. I'm assuming is what the scenes he's referring to, which I thought looked awesome. So I'm not agreeing with him on that, but whatever. He's somebody who likes to do things as practical as humanly possible.
Yeah.
And I have no doubt that the majority of this film, if not almost every single bit of this film, was done in camera practically.
Yeah.
Which then stands to reason, if that is the case, that the physical performance seen by Lily Rose in this movie is mostly, if not all, her. And
Mm.
there's so much that she's doing with her body in this
Mm-hmm.
movie where she's having these like possession level freakouts. And by possession, I mean the 1981 film with Sam Neill,
Yeah.
where this girl's throwing herself around in the
Yes.
subway tunnel. If you haven't seen it, definitely at least watch that scene. It's a scene that needs to be seen to be believed.
Yeah.
She has quite a few moments like that where she's really contorting her body
Mm.
and also violently shaking it and vibrating it and doing things with her face and
Oh my
the
gosh.
arching of
It's
her
like
back. And I'm like, oh man,
it's
she
intense.
really brought everything to this. And I think that she is the standout.
Mm-hmm.
Willem Dafoe, of course, is always wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
Nicholas Hoult plays, Jonathan Harker character, as I'd
It's
said.
good.
He's very good.
Really good.
Aaron Taylor Johnson
Mm-hmm.
plays like the friend who's like by his side. He's great. His wife, who I don't know the actress, but she's very good. And then, of course, the actor we have not mentioned, Kaylee
Yes.
talked about him a little bit here, but is Bill Skarsgård.
Oh yeah.
Um, having worked with his brother Alexander on The Northman, I think this was an obvious pairing,
Yeah.
because he is kind of known for his monstrous roles now with Pennywise. Um, this is definitely not the Nosferatu monster that we probably suspected was going to be on
Mm.
screen, because the look of Nosferatu, right? So it's interesting because this is a remake of Nosferatu,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like a lot of these movies are readaptations of Bram Stoker's Dracula, as to where these are, even though there's a lot of it that is similar to Dracula, there are things that are just Nosferatu.
Yeah.
And so this is a remake more so than an adaptation of that book. He's remaking the original German film.
Yeah.
um the look of Nosferatu has remained consistent. The
Mm.
pale white face and the exaggerated features and the long fingers and everything. And he definitely went with a bit of a different take on that. There's some similarities there, but it's not going to look how you think it's going to look, and that could be off-putting to people. I can absolutely see that. I could liken it to some stuff, but I want to keep that secret for
Yeah.
since of course they did so for the marketing. um the He is 100% like an absolute monster in this
Yes.
movie. And if I was to compare this to like all the Draculas, this is the most imposing
Yes.
and
Scary.
like threatening,
Yeah.
uh and just plain um like the he's presented as a plague,
Yeah.
and the threat of him has never felt so magnified. We also have like the Renfield character, which is funny because Nicholas Hoult played
Yeah.
Renfield,
Yeah.
and Willem Dafoe actually played Max Schreck playing Nosferatu in a movie called Shadow of the Vampire. So there's actually some connections to this lore already from these actors. But yeah, I think Nosferatu is just, he's perfectly balanced in this, like, you know, romantic. Um, okay, so the romance side of this movie is where things are really interesting,
Oh,
right?
absolutely. Yeah.
Because it's not presented like Bram Stoker's Dracula,
Not at all.
where the like where the romance is alluring.
Yeah.
We on the outside are horrified by everything, right?
Even on the inside.
You're not like, secretly, like, girls are like in the theater like,
Well,
oh, I want this.
I mean,
Okay,
I
maybe
don't
not with Kaylee, maybe
know.
with Kaylee, maybe,
No,
but
I
it's not sexy like that.
it's erotic. It's very erotic, but it's in a horrifying way. Like the
Yes,
horror is something that I can't downplay at all. And there's
they're never
definitely an
disconnected, the
no,
eroticism and the
they're
horror.
always at the same time. They're always
Yeah,
happening simultaneously, which
yeah,
is wonderful. Like that is to me what, a vampire movie should have in it if it's going to go with that like classic Dracula Nosferatu feel, and that is just yeah, I think it's perfect in this, and it is an element that you you just don't see, I feel, in a lot of vampire or Dracula stories.
yeah.
um but I think yeah, as you were saying, like his performance in this as the count is fantastic. I mean, he is yeah, we won't say anything about how he looks, but just like the voice that they use is fantastic. There's this like I don't know, just some effect, I guess, that's done on the voice that is so cool. Um
Think Lord of the Rings. That's all I'll
yeah,
say. I'm not
that's
gonna
what we
say
were both
anything more.
thinking. Uh but yeah, I don't know. I mean we like I
Yeah,
said, I think
it's
we could easily, watch this film again and do like a spoiler discussion and talk
sure.
about so many parts to it. But it's gorgeous. Like I said at the
Yeah,
beginning, I think this is just a perfect gothic horror movie. Um and I can easily see this being like the top film for so many people. And we were just saying like it's such a hard year to pick top movies in horror because we have so many
don't even
that are
get me started.
fantastic. But this one is like if you're a fan of his other movies, I mean there's no question you need to go see this.
Yeah,
And if you haven't seen any of his other films, you made a really good point when we left the theater saying that this might be his most like easily digestible film in terms of it is a slow burn, but it's not as much of a slow burn as his other films. There's stuff happening. There's some really good, scary kind of jump scare type sequences that aren't expecting. They're at like odd moments. They're not the traditional commercial jump scares, but a few of them like really got me because they're just like, all of a sudden you see something and it's it's wonderful. So
Yeah, the way, like, the great thing about the movie for me, probably the highlight of the film, outside of the obvious things like cinematography, like aesthetically, right? Those are a given. But the thing that really got me is that Nosferatu's presence, because Robert
mm,
Eggers is like maybe the best person at atmosphere
hmm
in the game currently. There were some arguments for a couple other people, but he's definitely in contention for number one. Nosferatu's presence is felt
the whole time,
literally
the
100% of the
whole
film,
time.
and he's probably only in the film for 15 minutes,
Oh yeah, but
right? So
it's the
like
looming the
it's
entire
always
time,
there,
which
right?
is wonderful.
And the way that like the way that he moves in the movie,
Oh,
I won't
so
say anything
cool.
else about that, but there's some scenes when he meets Nicholas Holt's character. That whole sequence when you first meet him is like the
It's
dread
oh
and the
gosh.
fear that
It's
anyone would
perfection. It's
feel. It's
perfection.
like,
It really is.
no.
I don't think I feel like this is probably the peak film for that. I don't feel like you can do it any better.
Yeah.
Like
Because the Gary
it's just
Oldman Bram Stoker's is like it's it, it's gothic, and it's like I don't know,
it's like romantic gothic. This is like horror gothic though.
yeah. And I love Bram Stoker's Dracula,
It's
like
totally different.
Francis Ford Coppola film.
Yeah.
But this is just like that pure gothic horror
Yes.
version of that. If you wanted to take any of the '90s feel out of that movie, and like the like typical romance type stuff, and you wanted like a much darker horror version of this, there you go.
Yeah.
So I think we'll leave it at that. I mean,
Yeah.
we have plenty of things we can say, but I think what else can we say without spoilers?
Yeah, maybe we'll do like a spoiler discussion at some point. I mean, I definitely would love to rewatch the film, get it on Blu-ray if it
Yeah.
comes out. But yeah.
And shout out to Ralph Ineson, who has been in most of Robert Eggers' films. I don't think he was in The Lighthouse because it's
Mm.
just Willem Dafoe and Robert Pattinson for like 99% of that film, except for like the horny mermaids. Um, but he's in The Witch, and he's in Northman, and he's like the sidekick of Van Helsing in this. He's who brings him in. But anyway, yeah. So that's that. Let us know when you watch
Yeah.
it, and we'll see you in the comments below. All right, bye
Bye.
guys.